What's the most amazing thing the human body does that people have no idea about? Everybody else is blown away by the capacity of the brain, while I'm amazed at how the forearm can twist. You have two parallel bones, and your muscles pull them so they cross, which rotates your arm. How crazy is that? Thanks, I really needed to spend 5 minutes turning my arm over and back again. I've always thought the resilience of the human body is pretty dang incredible. Your body will fight with every ounce of its being to keep you alive. Literally, your body will digest itself to salvage nutrients for vital organs. Your cells will kill themselves if they can tell there's something wrong with them for the good of the rest of the body. And you have so many reflexes that you wouldn't even begin to understand until they actually kicked in when you go into survival mode. The instinctive drowning response, for example. Every part of your body is focused on keeping your mouth above water for air. My personal favorite response is fight or flight. Normally your muscles are limited in how much power they can exert so they don't get hurt excessively during routine tasks like exercising. But when your adrenaline surges, that limit is gone. Your muscles will work as hard as they possibly can without restraint, and you don't feel the pain of overexertion either. This is where we get those stories of people lifting cars off their children. Hysterical strength. What your body can do in life or death situations is pretty freaking cool. Knitting broken bones back together is neat, but it gets super cool when the body shaves the lump of knit bone down to match the contour and shape of the original. My body sucks at that bit. I've had a huge freaking lump on my arm since I was 8. I think the tonsils go underappreciated. Most times they do an awesome job of keeping harmful bacteria from finding its way into your airways and making you sick. Other times they get full of tonsil stones and so swollen that you can't eat, but your doctor won't refer you to get them removed unless you visit them with tonsil problems 10 times a year. I hate my life. The human hand is one of the most insanely fine-tuned pieces of organic machinery on the planet. It contains an absurdly dense amount of nerve cells and special nerve adjustments that make it incredibly sensitive to extremely small signals. Because of this, and the insane art that is the natural craftsmanship of our hands, the human hand has a dexterity for precision that other apes do not have, let alone the rest of the barbaric in comparison animals. And you use it to jack off and browse memes. There was an article last year that showed that the fingertips can detect features that are 10 micrometers thick. Breast milk actually changes its composition to meet the individual nutritional needs of the baby, i.e. feeding from the breast. For example, if mom is nursing a toddler, who is more prone to short little drive-by nursings, the child gets more bang for their buck and gets a full session's worth of proteins, fats and vitamins in their 1-minute flyby, the same as a 3-month-old gets in their 25-minute session. As they get older, the quantity of vitamins, fats and proteins changes as well to meet their individual needs. This is even true if mom is tandem nursing 2 babies of different ages. The milk actually customizes itself to ensure they both get exactly what they need, and the amount of milk she makes is dependent entirely on how much stimulation she gets, i.e., the more the baby nurses at the breast, the better supplied they are. This is why using bottles and pacifiers mucks up someone's supply. The baby wastes all their suckling needs somewhere else. Even cooler, the milk makes antibodies for the viruses mom and baby are exposed to and fighting off. I always thought the coolest part in particular was that before the mom even knows she or her baby are sick, her milk is already creating medicine antibodies to treat her child. It's like a built-in vaccine that is constantly being updated to fight off the latest bugs. This is the main reason why breastfed babies are better equipped to fight off both short-term illness and long-term disease, like respiratory illness, asthma, allergies, etc. And it comes in a real pretty container, too. My dentist told me once that gums heal super quickly, that when you have a cut or something in your mouth it heals faster than a cut on the skin. That's true. I have this disease where my whole body is covered with lip skin. I heal really fast like a superhero, but I have to constantly massage myself with lip balm so I don't get chapped. You can lose up to 75% of your liver and it can grow back to its full size. Kind of like how a lizard can regrow its tail, but we do it with an extremely complex organ. You can lose up to 75% of your liver. Working on it. We can outrun most animals in long distances due to our ability to cool, our efficient two-legged running, etc. Over short distances, we're boned. Next time you're being chased by a bear, make sure your shirt says no mauling before the 10th mile marker on the back. Mitochondria have different DNA, which likely stems from the fact that they were once bacteria internalized by another single-cell organism, probably archaea, very early on in the evolutionary process, creating the single most important symbiotic relationship. Mitochondria are responsible for all of the energy production in your body. Look at an object on the wall across the room. Now keep looking at it while you move your head back and forth, up and down. Your eyes stay pointed at that spot. Not hard to do, is it? For that to happen, your brain needs to calculate the direction and rate of change your head is moving in 3-dimensional space and then send corresponding signals to the muscles in your eyes to exactly countermatch the rotation and speed in order to keep them pointed at that spot. And not only that, the muscles that have to be moved, and the rate at which they move, are different for each eye. Since if you turn your head quickly right, your eye contracts the muscles on the nose side to compensate, and the eye contracts the muscles on the temple side. It's an absolutely amazing, fine-tuned process involving incredible spatial calculations and microsecond signaling and adjusting that we do all the time and take completely for granted. Also, if you tilt your head to the left or right, your eyes have a limited ability to rotate along their horizontal axis to stay level with the horizon. This allows you to see things right side up even if your head isn't perfectly upright. It's hard to describe, but just get close to a mirror and watch your eyes as you tilt your head. Our general understanding of sleep boils down to we get tired. If you mean what do we understand but most people don't realize is extraordinary, then it's our healing ability. Compared to most other higher animals, we're basically X-Men meets the Terminator. We can survive and heal from things that would outright kill most animals and can chase things for days without rest. A large piece of your genome is made up of ancient viruses that inserted themselves into your ancestors thousands of years ago and are now just sleeping. Throwing. Think about all the velocity and angle calculations you needed to do for all those projectile problems in physics, and then realize that you don't think about any of that when you nail something with a ball by simply looking at it, even if it's a moving target. Math explains the rules. It isn't itself the rules. That's why we can't throw a ball without knowing math. People have no idea how lucky we are to have bodies so finely tuned that they can fart with a reliable degree of certainty that we won't crap. I've always been amazed by how our brain pieces together information and fills in gaps. For example, have you ever looked at the clock and thought the second took a weirdly long time to change? It turns out your brain retroactively changes your memory for the period of time where your eyes are moving to whatever you see when your eyes stop. That is the coolest crap. I'm sure a lot of people already know this, but I'm still amazed about how the nervous system basically controls almost everything in the body. The way electrical signals becoming chemical signals within a fraction of a second is still freaking with my mind right now. As I type this, thousands of tiny muscle fibers in my fingers are contacting just too much for me right now. The fact that every single thing we are, including thoughts and personality, all boil down to electrical signals in our brain freaks me out sometimes when I think too much about it. Anosognosia is a phenomenon where we become incapable of recognizing major problems. It usually happens after a stroke, which can render one side of your body paralyzed. People with anosognosia deny that they are paralyzed. When asked why they can't move their arm, they'll say, well, that's my daughter's arm. Why is your daughter's arm attached to your body? She was staying next to my bed all afternoon. It gets weirder. By squirting cold water into the air, the denial stops. The person cannot believe they ever denied the paralysis, and then the air warms up and they go right back into denial. What the frick? Your fingers pruning in water? That's not absorption. That's your body shifting to better grab things underwater. If that's not a superpower, I don't know what is. I encounter so many people who don't know this. We are sticky-eyeing our fingers to be more like the pads of lizard amphibian toes for increased grip. It's a nerve response and has nothing to do with water absorption changing the skin. If you have sufficient nerve damage in your fingers, hand pruning won't happen. probably late to the game, but breastfeeding is insane. The suction of the baby's mouth to the nipple allows saliva to enter into the breast, where the milk will adjust to address any issues in the baby, from passing antibodies to attack a virus or adding more water to the breast milk to address dehydration. Crazy beautiful stuff. Open and clench your hand every second. After a while, you will get tired. It will start to hurt. That's what your heart does every second of every day since you were born. My heart is so freaking swole. Physical humans are the top endurance runners of the animal kingdom. People wonder how we were somehow top predators with no claws, teeth, or extreme strength. We didn't need them. We literally ran our prey to death. The only ones capable of rivaling us are wolves and horses. If there is something our bodies are designed to do, it's run. Mental, we have computers the size of rooms that can undergo quadrillions of operations per second. Our brains still win. Our brains still win at certain tasks. I always found the following to be rather remarkable. As an electrical engineer, I often work with signals of varying types, relating to anything from communication to power and so on, in order to determine how any particular signal is unique and to determine what the desired information is contained in it, or what undesirable parts it contains. It is often necessary to perform a rather complex mathematical process called the Fourier Transform. This converts a signal that varies periodically in time into a series of individual frequency components. That is, any signal that repeats or is assumed to repeat over time can be represented by an infinite number of sine waves of various amplitudes and frequencies. The collection of these frequency components is called the Fourier series. From that information, I can make sense of the signal through signal processing software and hardware, and ultimately make intelligent decisions from that information. It's all rather very complicated, and this process of gathering a signal, breaking it down into discrete frequency components, shuffling through that information, and then performing various processes on that information before either putting it back together or storing the information is all very complicated and not at all relevant to this discussion. So, why am I telling you this? The reason is because that whole process of breaking down a signal into its frequency components in order to make sense of the signal is actually done, remarkably, in our own ear. The signal, in this case oscillations in the air that push and pull on our eardrum, causing a series of tiny bones to push and pull on a membrane that moves fluid in the cochlea back and forth in the same fashion as the eardrum moves. Where it gets really interesting is that, as the fluid moves, auditory nerves that line the wall of the cochlea are stimulated based on how far into the cochlea the vibrations are able to travel. Slow moving vibrations are detected in the lower part of the cochlea and can't actually reach the upper end. Faster moving vibrations make it further and further into the cochlea. Since the wall of the cochlea is lined with audible nerves, the nerves at any given point detect only the portion of the sound that reaches that point. This would be the frequency component that resonates at that point along the cochlea. What's amazing about this process is that your ear, quite naturally, detects and sends an audible sound, the signal, to the brain as the frequency components of that signal. In essence, the cochlea is mechanically computing the Fourier series from the audible signal that reaches the ear, and the auditory nerves are sending that information to the brain. In other words, you don't hear the signal, you hear the frequency components, and your brain is what puts it all together. TLDR, your inner ear does something remarkably complicated in a very elegant way. We can hear our own thoughts. There's nothing inside of our brains that should let us be able to hear what we are thinking. I mean, there's nothing that would allow us to hear thoughts, and yet, we do. Do it right now. You can talk to yourself without ever opening your mouth. And you can do it instantaneously. Our brain is freaking amazing. The ability to set your own internal clock and wake up on the dot. You can simply think of the hour you'd like to wake up at, right before sleeping, and lo and behold, your eyes open at that exact time. Everything from a cellular exchange of oxygen for carbon dioxide in the alveoli sacs to being able to think and react and move the giant sack of meat that is our body with the 3-pound mass in our skulls. The human body amazes me. We're neurons piloting a meat mech. A very small population of neurons, 1,000 neurons, make up the final common pathway in the brain that regulates all of reproductive function. They secrete the neuropeptide GnRH, gonadotropin releasing hormone, which is essential for reproduction, but you only need 10% of them for normal reproductive function. As if that wasn't cool enough, these neurons are actually born outside the brain and migrate from the nose into the hypothalamus during embryonic development. Because of this migration, they are not a discrete population but are scattered throughout the hypothalamus. Despite their scattered distribution, they are all tightly synchronized and release GnRH in large pulses. I think it's pretty amazing that reproduction depends on a few hundred neurons that don't even originate in the brain. Building a full human inside of your body. Sure, most people know how the basic mechanics work, but all the other things that go on in there to make a tiny human are completely incredible. Man, this is way too low in this thread. Basically, ready every other answer. The eye movement, math cheating throwing, fart trusting bodies, all of that, and the body itself can not only replicate those, but create a whole new sentient being, putting all that marvelous crap for the next generation and sometimes improve it. Ever seen a picture of a person getting brain surgery and been grossed out? That's your brain being grossed out at itself. More by the fact that there is an open brain, or the fact that people are poking it. You are already a, not yet fertilized, egg when your maternal grandmother was between 16-18 weeks pregnant with your mother. Waking up is pretty freaky. I have no proof that I was the same person I was when I fell asleep, except that my brain tells me I am, through memories, and I have to take its word for it. Reflex reactions like touching a hot plate send an electrical impulse to your spinal cord and back to the right muscle, causing you to jerk away from the danger. This all happens before the signal reaches the brain. The body of a new mother of twins will match the temperature of both babies at the same time during skin-to-skin contact. The body temperature will vary from right side to left to match the individual baby to help the newborn regulate its body temperature. Seriously, what? This will probably get buried, but the pirate eye trick. In a very dark room, preferably at night, cover one eye and stare into a light source, like a lamp. Do this for about 5 minutes. The longer you do it, the better the effect. Then, turn off the lamp. Look around with your eye still covered. Pitch black right, then switch your hand to cover the other eye. Look around. Night vision. Apparently this is why pirates had eye patches. Not because they lost an eye, but because they could go into dark cellars and see. I know this works because I lie in bed at night with one eye staring at my phone and the other eye closed and buried in my pillow. I sometimes get up in dark to use the bathroom. I'm late to the game, but everything about fixed action patterns and neural pathways are incredible. A baby sees a nipple and automatically knows to feed from it. Why? Fixed action pattern. You're walking in the desert and all of a sudden you stop. Why did you stop? You look down and then notice a very venomous snake. You stopped because your brain picked up a slither in your field of vision before your eyes noticed it. Your brain picks up slithers and skitters for snakes and spiders. Neural pathways. There's more, and they're all fascinating. Until mine gave up on me, I had no idea that our autonomic system goes into overdrive whenever we move positions, even slightly, to make sure that blood gets pumped to every part of your body, and it works so quickly and so well that the only sign is a very brief and very small rise in heart rate. It happens so quickly, and does it so well that very few people even notice it. A few years ago mine stopped doing this part of its job. Long story, and it means that the blood pools in the lowest part of my body, other than when I'm laying flat. This means that the blood is pooling in my legs. To force the blood back up, my heart beats faster and faster to try and cope. Within 3 minutes, sometimes less, rarely more, it reaches a speed that is too fast, and I pass out. This causes me to be flat again if I pass out somewhere open, and gives my heart and autonomic system the chance to calm down and return to normal. Admittedly, this is just something I didn't know. It's possibly more common knowledge than I knew, and is probably only interesting to others with POTS too. What about the fact that I am reading these in my head with different random voices? Or I can choose a voice I've heard before like Morgan Freeman or Ray Romano, SpongeBob. Every time you swallow, a little flap in your ear opens and closes to continually rebalance the pressure in your ear. Without it, your hearing would cease to be effective, and over time your head would fly off like the cork from a well-shaken bottle of cheap, fizzy wine. The second part of that may be a slight exaggeration, or an outright lie. Eustachian tubes, for anyone who needs proof beyond the witterings of some bloke. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.